Welcome back to Chat Shit. It has been a while. We've been across the world in Africa, drowning away our sorrows of Grand Final Day, which it was serious levels of depression, that one. But we're back, really excited to talk about the 2025 season. And you can see from the title, we're chatting about the Swans, our team. And Aiden's going to start us off with a recap.
Well, the first thing I'll say is we never actually recorded a video on the review of the grand final. We just couldn't muscle up and actually record that video after watching what happened with that 60-point loss to Brisbane on grand final day. So this is the first time we've seen you guys since then. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a cruisy period through finals last year. There was a 6-point win over GWS, 36-point win over Port Adelaide, and then all the way to the finals, and we know what happened there.
You look, in 2022, I was at the MCG for the final against Geelong, where we lost about 340. Mm-hmm. And then 2024, I was like, okay, clearly I'm the jinx. I've got to stay home and just watch it just watched with my brother and two of his mates and my girlfriend. But no, trounced almost just as badly. So I'm going to have to try something out when we make the grand final this year.
The problem is, I didn't go in 2022 because I wasn't confident. I went in 2024 because I was confident, and there was still trounced.
I think we're both a jinx, so if we both stay home, maybe it'll be fine.
I know, but you just don't want to miss it, do you? You don't want to miss the chance of them winning.
Yeah. But anyway, to summarise 2024, the Swans were the dominant best team in the league. It's actually been quite a while since a team during the home and away season has been that much better than the second best team. And then we were dominant in the finals as well. Then we get to grand final day, and they crumbled. We got to confront that. The Swans have got to confront that. I'm sure that they have in depth. And I just want to start off by saying that a lot of people, as we were discussing, when you look around these sort of other predictions videos on YouTube, have been really, really doubting the Swans this year. I think it's quite crazy. In terms of the home and away season, the Swans have the same list that just dominated the league last year, and we have a new coach that's been trained up by Longmire, one of the greatest coaches of the modern era. Dean Cox has been trained up by Longmire, and he seems to have provided sort of a fresh mentality, which I think is important to pushing this list over the edge on grand final day, because clearly it's a mental block.
Well, what I didn't actually understand was Dean Cox's almost first move when he first got in charge. It was a 7.5-hour grand final review.
Just a torture chamber.
Yeah, ensuring the team learns from the loss rather than let it break them. That was one of the first things. And then we haven't seen too much from him, but then we saw the 2-kilometre time trial.
The double 2K.
Which then they thought they were finished and had to do another 2-kilometre time trial. But so it seems like he's really drilling them and getting them ready to play a more physical and long battle-out game.
Yeah, I saw a side by side of some character in a movie just after his wife died, side by side with Corey Warner's face after he's just run the quickest 2K time trial, and he hears that he's got to run another one.
Yeah, you put everything into it.
I think there was more agony on Corey Warner's face.
No, I like it. Now, last season was good. We averaged 90-plus points, which was the second highest in the competition, near the top for tackles, pressure. Defense held up, even though we thought it might look dodgy. We had Melican have probably his best season ever in an AFL shirt.
Yep.
But disappointing in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. But now we move on to 2025. And I've just said that I think we'll do a bit better than other people expect. What do you think?
I can't quite believe, like you said, that people are predicting us not only outside the top 4 but outside the top 8. They're really seeing that grand final heartbreak as something to really diminish the Swan season. There might be that at the beginning, potentially, because we have seen it. We do see it quite often. But going outside the top 8 is, I think, a bit of a stretch, and we'll find out a little bit later where we predict the Swans. I'm just going to sum us through the key ins and outs. There wasn't too much that happened. Obviously, with Luke Parker left, long-time player of the Swans, captain Swans, North Melbourne, 293 games, and then there were just some draft picks in. So, yeah, like you said, nothing's really changed.
You know, just before I move on to my thoughts about 2025, I just want to make one point, which is how grateful I am that the hump we can't get over is grand final day. Because you got teams like Essendon with huge fan bases that can't get over the hump of winning a final.
Yeah.
Teams like Gold Coast that can't get over the hump of making a final.
Yeah.
And teams like North Melbourne that can't get over the hump of making the top 16 at the moment. So not being able to get over the hump of
where you were going with that.
grand final day, it's a lucky issue to have.
Yeah. And do we want to just touch on the injuries?
Yes. I'm happy to touch on that because it's very similar to last year, actually. Last year, we had Callum Mills, Luke Parker, and Taylor Adams, who we expected to be 3 of our top 4 midfielders in the preseason, all go out with injuries and be out for at least 4 weeks each. Mills and Parker for longer. And what we saw from that is that people predicted that the Swans would have a really bad start to the year, but we went 10-0 or 10-1 and something. And Isaac Heaney stepped into a full-time midfield role, and we became probably a top 2 player in the competition alongside Marcus Bontempelli. We saw Chad Warner really grow, James Rowbottom grow into a really, really, really valuable player. And yeah, we saw players really have to step up and develop. And hopefully, the Swans staff see this as the same opportunity this year. Gulden, Mills, and Grundy are all injured, but they'll all be back within 2 months or so. And they can really use this as an opportunity to develop guys like Angus Sheldrick, Justin McInerney, some of these young guys, Corey Warner, maybe a Caleb Mitchell, get these guys some minutes and have them become a lot stronger players.
Well, when I was first going to write the notes for this podcast, I was going to be like, Callum Mills feels like a new signing because he never really got his preseason last year, and we know he never really hit the levels that he's able to hit when he did come back in last year. And he was like, he's drilled in with a full preseason, he's going to have a great season, and sort of that goes away now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does come back. He's had more of a preseason than he did last year, where he didn't actually have any preseason because of the injury right at the end of the previous season before that. But let's look at what we think is going to be our best 22. For round 0, starting off in the back line, I've put Rampy, Melican, and Aaron Francis. The half-back line, I have Matt Roberts, Blakey, and Ollie Florent. Across the centre, I have McInerney on one wing, Chad Warner, and then James Jordan on the other wing. On the half-forward line, I have Papley, McCartan, and I've put Heaney. In the forward line, I've put Logan, McDonald, Amati, and Hayward. Roving, I've got Laddams as the ruck at the moment, Sheldrick and Rowbottom. And on the bench, I have Taylor Adams, Jake Lloyd, Harry Cunningham, Sam Wicks, with Braden Campbell as the sub. Just some things I want to point out there. At the back line, it becomes a little bit more interesting because our back line was already looking a bit shaky last year. We've taken our best defender, and looks like he's going to play forward. Kicked 4 goals against Gold Coast in the practice game. But then it'll be probably between Hamling and Francis. I think they'll go Francis to start. But as a key backman, it'll be one of them that plays. Other than that, I haven't made too many changes. I tried to find a way to get Corey Warner in because I think he probably will play, and that could be Wicks on the bench. But Wicks looks like he's going to have a role in the back pocket based on the practice games that have gone so far. So yeah, it's. I think they've got a very deep and talented 22, especially with the guys. That's leaving Mills out. That's
Gulden and Grundy.
Grundy obviously comes back into that list, but it's just how you can get all the names in, which is a good problem to have.
I think there's a lot of debate as to who will make those final few spots. The one real big discrepancy I have with you is Braden Campbell will be best 22. He's just been growing, and especially with these injuries, but even without them, he was just so strong whenever the Swans gave him an opportunity last season, and he's so talented. This is all that I'm hearing is that, and that I'm reading is that this is the year they give Braden Campbell a solid role, and he's no longer a sub risk. So I think Braden Campbell will be in, and it's going to be someone like a Corey Warner, or from your list, someone like Sam Wicks that doesn't make the 22, or someone like maybe even Angus Sheldrick or Jake Lloyd these days. But no, Lloyd's playing pretty well. I think he'll be safe.
It's very tough to get into the 22, and as I said, leaving the guys out as well. It's a very strong team. Also,
the other thing I noticed is that you did the all Australian trick where you snuck Heaney into the half forward line. He'll be in every centre bounce in that round 0 game.
I think they're gonna give him a crack going further forward, which we might. I think
he had a crack doing that for 8 years, and we realised he was better in the midfield.
I know, but I think he might have less midfield time and more towards the forward line this year than he did last year.
Why?
There's a lot of depth in the midfield, less depth as mid-sized forwards go.
Fair enough. Can't say I agree with you about Braden Campbell, but we can move on to who we think will be the breakout players this year. So we've just named some of the players maybe that weren't in the 22 last year that are now in there, or players that are in different roles. Like we haven't talked about Tom McCartan yet, but I assume we will in a minute. So I'll tell you the three players I think will break out the most in the team. The first being Corey Warner. Not sure if he makes the round zero team, but he gets a lot more time this year, I promise you, than he got last year, which last year was probably 5 games when there were a lot of injuries, or a bit less than that. He's, I think, going to become a really, really solid small forward. And I think when we give him time, from what I saw in the practice matches this year and what he's shown last year, he's just ready to break out and become a really valuable small forward. He won our 2K time trial for a second straight year, or at least he came top 3 last year. So he's a player that's putting in the work, and he's going to break out. Another one is Joel Amati, who had that 9-goal game last year and then disappeared for 5 games, as Aiden put it the other day. I think he finds more consistency this year. From what I've seen in the pracky matches, he is really looking strong and consistent. Like, he has a good hold of his game. He's dominant in the air when he's on his game, but I think if he's going to be on his game more, look out for him to kick 45 plus goals this year.
I like it.
And then the third one for me is Braden Campbell, who I just spoke about.
Okay, I'll go straight into mine. So I had Corey Warner and Braden Campbell as well, but I had one change. I actually put Tom McCartan as a breakout player. He's going to a completely different position. And obviously, we've only seen him in a couple practice games, but it just, I think playing as a defender and being an elite defender, his ability to read the ball.
I'm glad you said elite defender.
The way he was able to come out of the goal square and meet the ball, just straight off the boot, because playing is that key defender role and knowing where you need to be. He's just got that extra know-how, and I think he brings a little bit more marking power overhead to that Swans forward line that they desperately need.
You know what I love about him being forward? As you say, he reads the ball so well, and with all his acumen and experience as a defender, I don't really remember him losing marking contests. That's the thing. He's not going to dominate your intercept mark stats, but he just really doesn't lose a contest.
He's going to bring it to ground.
So I reckon what happens is, against teams where we're not too afraid of a big intercept defender, he can be a 4-5 goal guy that can just really be strong.
4 goals against
exactly
the other day,
playing half game time or something. So he can really be a goal scorer this year. But when we come up against James Sicily, a Tom Stewart, Stephen May if he's in form, I reckon Tom McCartan goes to them and can kick a couple goals, but stop them from having any intercept impact. So I reckon that's how they're going to play him up there.
No, I like it. I think he's going to have a big season. And I think it might free up some of the other guys. I know now we've got 4 big key forwards to fit into probably 3 spots if they go the same way that they did last year. But yeah, competition's always a good thing. Let's jump into our X Factor players.
So I put Tom McCartan as an X Factor player. As we said, I love the amount of impact that he'll be able to have in the forward line. He had a huge impact in the back line. And I reckon now is probably a good time to discuss the one thing that's really bad about this Tom McCartan move is what it does to our back line. We don't have a ready-made fullback replacement. It's going to have to be either Aaron Francis, Joel Hamling, or there's a young fella whose name I forget who hasn't played a game of AFL football yet, and one of them is going to have to be the dominant fullback, because Lewis Melican is a centre half back, and that is worrying. We haven't seen really consistently strong performances from Aaron Francis, and Joel Hamling wasn't given a game last year. So what do you think they do there?
I think they're going to start off with Francis, just I'd say based on what they've seen, but maybe just experience, I guess, in playing in the Swans team. Hamling has got quite a few minutes this preseason playing as that key defender, so it looks like he'll get a chance. And maybe they go crazy and they'll throw one of the extra key forwards and give them a crack.
Yeah.
Back there, because, I mean, the option might be you either have a crack as a key defender or you don't play.
The one thing I'd say is, just as a note on this, I remember times in the last couple of years where Tom McCartan and other key defenders have been injured, and instead of replacing replacing them, they've just stuck Nick Blakey a bit deeper in the back line, and they've made sure that Dane Rampy's aware of the situation, and so they all just converge on every high ball, and we actually perform extremely well as a defensive movement with no fullback, as a defensive group. So I'm excited to see what they do about it, because I love the move of Tom McCartan forward, but it's about reconciling that back line.
Yeah, but the only problem with lacking that extra key defender is you don't want Blakey doing that.
Yeah, you want him running up the field.
Really running a half back,
agreed.
which is was All Australian, got given All Australian for.
My other X factor is Tommy Papley. I can't put him for breakout player because he's already been an All Australian and a superstar, but I reckon this is another All Australian year for him. I can just smell it. I like what I see at the moment in this preseason, and I reckon he's just gonna pile on goals and pressure like he always does.
I like it. So I had McCartan as well. I'm pretty big I'm pretty big on him playing forward. I think I'm going to really enjoy it. So I've got him as an X Factor and a breakout player. Also, I've put Callum Mills in there as an X Factor player. He didn't have any preseason last year. He did have quite a long preseason this year. He's not out for too long. I think he's going to be able to come back in and have hopefully, what I believe, one of his best seasons. So I think he's really going to impact, especially in a leadership position.
Awesome.
So let's talk about the impact these guys are going to have when we talk about our predicted ladder finish and season expectations.
I do believe that the Swans will be top 2 and probably minor premiers again. As we saw last year, the Swans have the best list in the AFL. We made a grand final 3 years ago in 2022 with the youngest list in the AFL. We're now 3 years on from that, and this list is now at peak age. Our injuries at the start of the year are only minor injuries, and in terms of no longer than 4 or 5 weeks. And with a culture that consistently wins like the Swans has, I think the most pivotal game will be Brisbane in round 1. If we're able to win that game, that'll do a huge amount for the confidence and mentality of this team, and I reckon they fly away to a top 2 home qualifying final finish.
I like it. I read online, I don't know if you've heard, but Fox Footy has this thing called they call a premiership clock. What's where that? Each team is at a part of the clock, and the closer you are to 12 a.m., the closer you are to what they believe is winning a flag. The Swans at 11 p.m., which meaning they believe they're primed for another flag push.
Yeah.
Like, I believe everyone should believe we should be finishing between 1st and 4th. I think, yes, there's grand final heartache, but with this team and the team they have, we've just gone through the best 22 and we've left about 3 of the best guys out. And they will be coming back in. If they don't finish top 4 with their record at the SCG making it an absolute fortress, only lost once in 2024, I think it'd be disappointing to not get that top 4 and second chance. So I think, honestly, I think it's premiership or bust in 2025 for the Swans. Yeah. There are a lot of teams coming, and they have now had that experience. They've gone to 2 grand finals. I think they have to take that step further. I mean, what else is there? Make another grand final?
One team that's not coming for the premiership is Carlton, which we'll discuss in another video. Just thought I'd throw Australia in there. But another expectation or prediction that I have that I'm quite strong on is if we do make finals, which I think is highly likely, Dean Cox will have this team playing a very different style of footy to what we've played in the last few years in finals. I reckon he'll have them playing a very tough, messy style of football, which is what we have not done in the last 2 grand finals. It really was, I know that we don't want to harp on about it, but it was very devastating, the recent grand final, because against Geelong in 2022, they tried to play this neat and tidy, clean footy, which Geelong just overran us, over-tackled us, and they were just too tough. And then I saw the same thing happen last year. And so I think with some proper review and a new perspective, I don't think Cox will allow that to happen again. So I'm excited to see how they play in finals.
Yeah, I've never really been following footy enough and been at the age to understand what's going on to see the Swans play any differently to what they've been doing in the past. So I'm really excited to see what happens in round 0, and we'll both be there. But we'll move on to the final part of the video where we talk about our bold predictions and hot takes.
Yep. I've got one, which is that this is not a hot take. It's something we're sort of getting a hint, a little bit of an Easter egg. Despite all the superstars that are on this Swans list that are coming up, the next captain of this side, or the next co-captain, is James Rowbottom. Did you see that So Callum Mills is a sole captain right now, and the Swans typically have co-captains. With Mills out for the practice game, James Rowbottom captained the side. It wasn't Errol Gulden, Isaac Heaney, Tom McCartan, or anyone else. It was James Rowbottom, and I love that. It's very classic Swans to have that guy that just gives you 100% effort.
The grunt player.
Tough, tackles more than anyone else in the league, actually. Led the league in tackles last year. That's the perfect guy to be the next co-captain of the Swans.
I like it. Now, I've got Joel Amati and Tom McCartan both kicking 45-plus goals.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love it.
So I think Joel Amati might get better matchups if McCartan does become that guy we hope him to become in the forward line. I think McCartan's got the talent.
God, it's exciting. Those two up there.
And maybe they switch and they don't go the three keys and they go a bit smaller, bring it to ground, because they have got talented small forwards, the guys that can play off the ground. But I'm going to go both of them kick 45-plus goals this year.
I absolutely love that prediction. And you know what the interesting thing is? Out of all of our key forward options, the one that was touted as the best was Logan McDonald. There were articles with him being the next Buddy Franklin, and he was a high pick in the draft, which the Swans don't get a lot of high picks because they're often finishing high on the ladder. So he was a high pick in the draft. He was meant to be a real big key forward talent, and we know he hasn't quite lived up to that yet. He's not playing like a Sam Darcy or a Mac Andrew or these other big young key players. So he really has room to step up as well. So I'm excited. I feel really good about our key forwards, which I have not done for since Lance Franklin was in his prime at the Swans.
Well, it looks like Amati's built up his body quite a bit over preseason. He looks like he's a bigger body. He took a lot of marks overhead in preseason, and he's always kicked straight. That's what we know. He just hasn't been able to clunk the marks out the air. So if he can do that, I think he's got no problem kicking 45 goals. Okay, I have one more bold prediction. I've just said Dean Cox is going to win Coach of the Year. I think if the Swans, and I believe they'll get a top 2 finish under the first-year coach, I think it'll be quite hard to ignore.
Ooh, I don't think that they'd give it to him. I reckon it's a team that's just come first. The only way there's
first-year coach. I mean,
true.
Top 2 finish.
True.
We'll see. But just some final thoughts on the Swans 2025 season. Like, can they shake off that choker tag after 2022 and 2024 floggings?
Well, if we look at recent years, 2022 made a grand final way earlier than we thought we would. We were just hoping to make finals that year. And then the year following that, when we got trounced in the granny, we played awfully and should have missed finals. We got lucky with that umpiring decision for the Ben Keys goal in round 24. But I don't think they drop off the way they did there. This is not as young a team anymore. This is a group that's been really solid together. A
lot of them entering their prime as well.
Exactly, playing plenty of finals games together, being in really, adverse situations together now. I reckon they're really strong mentally, and I see this team comfortably making the top 4.
I think our biggest concern, like we've talked about the whole video, is that key position depth, especially in the back line. So I mean, they're tested early on. We've got Hawthorn of Brisbane first 2 rounds, who are also going to be in around that first to fourth mark. So we've got 2 top 4 teams probably first 2 games, and we're going to really see if that defense can hold up.
Absolutely. And the final thing I'll say is we haven't spoken about the injury of Brodie Grundy too much, but yeah, he's always an injury risk. We got a bit lucky last year, but he is an injury risk to be a player that tall with a bit of injury history. And now they're going to have to find someone to replace him at the start of the year. We do not have a ruck replacement that's rearing to go. It's going to have to be a player that hasn't been at their best in previous years, Peter Laddams, or a young guy. So I'm excited to see what they do there.
But yeah, above all, we're really excited. We can't wait for Friday night for when we're both at the SCG watching the game. And yeah, we'll see you on the next video.